Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. Crystal Rogers is missing. Her boyfriend Brooks Houck is trying to tell the police that they've got a normal relationship. Yet, sure, they fall out from time to time, but they always make up, which seems fair enough. So why does it worry me so much when he says this?
It has been, at times, a stressed relationship. I'm not here telling you anything other than that. That is the truth, and that's accurate. Yeah. That has been discussed, but we've always found ourselves together. We loved each other very much, and that right there is the bottom end of it.
Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What I do here is different from anywhere else because I'm going to strip away everything apart from the words that we hear. And then I'm going to analyse them using my process of statement investigation to get closer to seeing the truth, where deception could be happening, and the motivations of a person as well. It's a process that I use with investigators, with the media, and with corporate clients as well to get a better understanding of what is being said. So let's look at this case then. So Crystal went missing in 2015. She's never been found. Now, currently 2 men are on trial in connection with her murder. One of those men is her boyfriend at the time she went missing, a guy called Brooks Houck. And it's his formal police interview that we're going to watch again. Now, I've looked at him already in part 1, which I'll link to in the show notes. But there's a couple of things have come up from part 1 that I want to deal with before we get into part 2. The first thing I want to talk about deals with this.
This is going to be embarrassing for me to talk to you about, but I'm wanting to get everything cleared up as quickly as I can. They do these fantasy parties. All these girls get together. They talk about and do whatever. And it's not uncommon for them, when they go out and party, they stay out the better part of the night, if not the whole night. So, and of course, I always have the children, because they know I don't get into all that stuff, and they know that I'm a man, don't get me wrong. Understand that, a white-blooded American male, and there's no sense, I'm not telling you anything different, but they do all these parties and order all this stuff.
Right, so first of all, I did ask what was a fantasy party, and I've had a lot of people tell me what a fantasy party is. Never heard of one before, but it appears to be a party where a lot of women get together, talk about women's desires, and also there's an opportunity to try and maybe purchase certain toys for adults. If you know what I'm saying. A lot of fun reading the comments of people trying to put that into PG-friendly terms. So that's what a fantasy party is. And do these fantasy parties make him feel less of a man? Well, the fact that he needs to tell us what a man he is does suggest that. But, and I can't believe I missed this, he says, I'm a man. And then he says, I'm a white-blooded American man. Now, the phrase is red-blooded if you want to prove how manly you are. But he said, white-blooded. Now, we all misspeak from time to time, but I think he's not got the conviction of saying I'm a red-blooded man. I think he felt less of a man because Crystal went to these parties. The second one, Erica, thank you. You were the person that spotted this. Have a listen to this excerpt from what we listened to in the first breakdown of this police interview.
You said you all talked about the kids Friday evening. Does that conversation bleed over to when you get home, or is that conversation done?
No, whenever I got home, I went to bed. I mean, it was relatively, quickly when I got in there. Okay. The conversation does not bleed over.
Okay, so what Erica spotted was number 1. The story, as he's telling it, is that him and Crystal drove home together the night that she went missing and got home together. And there's some real doubt about whether Crystal ever made it to the home. He's asked, when you got home, that's the pair of them, when you got home, did that conversation bleed over? It takes 2 people to have a conversation, so that's how we know the question is about 2 people. When you got home, did that conversation bleed over? And he says, when I got home, just himself, when I got home, I went to bed. So for me, that's an indication that Crystal wasn't with him. And then when he talks about the conversation not bleeding over, he uses present tense. It's not the past tense. No, the conversation didn't bleed over. It's the conversation does not bleed over. So he uses the present tense. I think a big tell that Crystal did not go back to that house that night. Okay, let's dig into more of this police interview with Brooks Houck.
Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up?
I mean, obviously we had fought just like any other any other couple, but in the last several years, I mean, it's came up, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward. Mm-hmm. So that it's mentioned, but it's never happened, and we've always found ourselves together moving forward.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to look at is how Brooks describes the relationship with Crystal in this police interview. The detective says to him, "Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up?" And Brooks doesn't say, "Yeah, we have," or "No, we never have." He avoids saying yes or no to that question. There we go. Interesting fact number one, straight out the bat. He's going to give us more of an explanation, really. He says, obviously we have fought, just like any other couple. So we have there the word obviously. Obviously we've fought. He's trying to say everyone fights. Well, not every relationship would be described as having fights inside it, actually, but he's saying it's obvious, so don't question me. This is just normal. This is just what people do. And I'm being really honest with you here and telling you, obviously, we have fought, just like any other couple. Now, what we've got here is a couple of things. We've got that word just. Always look into things said around the word just, because it often indicates deception is happening. And here, just like any other couple, so it's no big deal. Again, he's playing down things here. He's very sensitive to the allegation that him and Crystal have talked about breaking up. We have fought, just like any other couple. We're just like any other couple. And you can see here, and he does this a lot through this interview, he just repeats the thing he's saying 3 or 4 times, just like any other couple. I think this is him choosing his words very carefully, and while his mind is focused on what is it I'm going to say next, what's the next concept I'm going to bring up, and then how do I verbalize that, which words do I use, the crutch to get over that, because it's hard to think and talk at the same time, is to repeat the words that you're saying. So that's why we get that very repetitive, just like any other couple. But in the last several years, it's came up, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward. So it's mentioned, but it's never happened, and we've always found ourselves together moving forward. This section here is just a lot of downplaying. In the last several years, it's came up. Now, that sounds like a terrible relationship. I do not know how long they've been together. Like I say, I only focus on the words. They've been together for years, and in the last several years it's came up. That sounds like a leakage of a really bad relationship, that regularly it came up, which is the question is breaking up. So it seems like this is him leaking. Instead of him just saying, yeah, it was a really bad relationship, what he's doing is going, oh, we're just like any other couple, we fight. But then the leakage comes as he tries to downplay these fights. He leaks in the last several years. It's came up. But we always found ourselves together moving forward. Means it's came up more than once because we always did it. There's been a few incidences of this. So the fact he's downplaying how bad the relationship was, how bad these fights are, how often the talking about breaking up came through, I think this was a really bad relationship. And then he says, we've always found ourselves together moving forward. So it's mentioned, but it's never happened. Kind of all true, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward. And he's used that phrase twice, found ourselves together moving forward. Now, ourselves does indicate some unity there, some joined upness, the same with the word together. But it's that word found that's interesting. That feels to me like downplaying as well, because there's no actions in there. We've always got through it, come through stronger or anything like that. It's just found ourselves together. And I want to know, was he the instigator? Is it, you're not leaving me, you're staying with me? I don't know. But it's interesting. Found ourselves together moving forward is very, very passive. But it is a yes to the question. He doesn't say yes. Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up? Yes, we had. He doesn't say no, we hadn't. And obviously we know why, because he is saying the things in there. But it is a yes to that question. Have you ever spoken about breaking up? So here, he is downplaying how bad this relationship was, but it leaks out in his language. And there's an indication he's choosing his words really carefully. He's not in free flow. He's not doing everything he can instinctively to answer the detective's questions. He's picking his words very carefully for impression management. Now, why would that be? Why does he not just want to say everything that's on his mind and give the detective all the information needed to get the spotlight off of him and on to finding Crystal? Because in his narrative, Crystal's gone missing. He doesn't know where she is. Let's listen to some more around what this relationship is like.
When you said you all had talk about splitting up, had that been more recently, or was that before Eli was born, or had that been?
I don't remember the exact dates, but if you'll recall back in a couple of days ago when we had talked, whenever usually that had came up, she had always went to like Sabrina's house, or she went out with Brooke or to her parents for a short period of time, a day and a half, and after she cooled off, and we had a chance to talk a little bit, we always found ourselves back together. But it has been at times a stressed relationship. I'm not here telling you anything other than that. That is the truth, and that's accurate. Yeah. That has been discussed, but we've always found ourselves together. We loved each other very much, and that right there is the bottom end of it.
So much there that worries me in this answer. When you said you all had, talked about splitting up, had that been more recently, or was that before Eli was born, or had that been, question drifts off. Now, the nub of the question is, when you talked about splitting up, was that recently? Was that before Eli, their child, who I think was approaching age 3 at the time, was that before Eli was born, or had that been... Now, what's the answer to that? Do you know the answer from Brooks about that? Has it happened recently, or was it in the past? Just listening to what he said. We don't know, because he does not answer the question. Why not just say, yeah, it was before Eli was born, or yeah, it was more recently than that? Because when you've had an argument and you've talked about breaking up and you have a child together, you know whether that child was there or not. So he's being deceptive in this answer for sure. He says, I don't remember the exact dates. Brooks, you weren't asked the exact dates. You were asked, was it before your child was born or after your child was born? It could have been both. That could be your answer. So he answers a question that he wasn't asked. It's an indication this guy is being deceptive and hiding something. And what would you hide? You're going to hide the fact you had an argument recently, aren't you? Because right now, your girlfriend's missing. You are her partner. So you've been told you are a prime person of interest. So why are you being deceptive? I don't remember the exact dates, but if you recall back a couple of days ago when we talked. Now, this is him going and saying how consistent he's been with the detective. So I'm going to tell you now something that I've told you before. Liars often feel the need to point out how consistent they've been. They think it makes their lies more believable. I think that's what's going on here. Look, I've told you this already. I told you this a couple of days ago, and it's still the same now. For some reason, liars feel like the more often they point out how consistent they are, the more believable their liars will be. Is that what is going on here with Brooks? Is he lying and using this consistency principle to look like or feel like he's looking like an honest person? He says whenever usually that's came up, she had always went to like Serena's house, or she went with Brooke or to her parents. Now, whenever usually that came up, she went to Sabrina's house or to live with Brooke, usually says something else has happened as well. Not just that's always what happens, not when we talked about splitting up, she's gone to Sabrina's house or Brooke's house. Just usually that's what happened. So what happens when the unusual happens, Brooke? Tell us. Also there, when usually that happens, she always went to Sabrina's. So again, was there something here where she said, I'm off? And usually she'd go to Sabrina's house or Brooke or her parents. And here, something different has happened. The language of truth will leak out in her answers. Is that what is happening here? And then he does the downplay again. So she went out with Brooke or to her parents for a short period of time, a day and a half, which again is just that downplaying. She didn't leave for a week. She didn't leave for a month. What happened was she went just for a short period of time. No big deal at all. She just went and came back very, very quickly. He also says then, after she cooled off and we had a chance to talk a little bit, we always found ourselves back together. Now, after she cooled off, now that's quite direct. It is Crystal needing to do the cooling off. Oh, if you need to cool off, why is that? It's not because Crystal's done something bad. It's because she's mad at Brooks for some reason. So what he's telling us here is when they had arguments, when they talked about breaking up, it was something to do with his behaviour that Crystal didn't like. She was the one that needed to cool off. He's not saying he needed to cool off. Now, I think that's direct. I think that's saying that Crystal would get mad at him and walk away, because you'll notice it's never him that's leaving, it's Crystal that's leaving. He never talks about kicking her out. It's about Crystal being mad and going away. So I think Crystal did not like some of the things that he was doing in that relationship. Then we had a chance to talk a little bit. We always found ourselves back together again. Now, look, we found ourselves back together again. We've got that phrase, we found ourselves back together again. It's very passive, and I'm wondering if there was some coercive control from Brooks here to bring her back, whether he turned on the charm or whether he painted a really bad picture of some of the things he would do. I'll take Eli off you, for example, if you don't come back. We always found ourselves back together. But it has been, at times, a stressed relationship. I'm not here telling you anything other than that. Lots to unpack there. It has been, at times, a stressed relationship. That's in the past tense. It's not, it is a stressed relationship. So he's already talking about the relationship in the past tense. It has been, at times, a stressed relationship, which is an interesting way of talking about it. Stressed relationship. That's not, it's a relationship that's had some stress in it, or sometimes we fight. No, this is that downplaying that he's trying to do. This is the truth of that leaking out. He labels it a stressed relationship. And then he says, I'm not here telling you anything other than that. And Brooks a lot tells us what he isn't doing. He tells us a lot of the times what he isn't doing, which again is an indication that this guy is hiding things. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. What are you doing? Tell us what you are doing. And then he says, that's the truth and that's accurate. Now, this is very much like when someone tells you, honestly, this happened, or to tell the truth, this is the truth. And I always say, why are people flagging up that they're telling the truth? Very often, when someone does something like that and tells you, honestly, this happened, or to tell the truth, or to be honest with you, I always say, what are they doing? Are they flagging it up because everything else has been a lie and they have to tell flag up the truth because that's instinctively what's in their head? Oh, here comes the truth, so I'm going to say this is the truth. Or often I'm saying, are they flagging up this is the truth because it's a lie, because they think it's more believable if they go, oh, to tell the truth and then tell a lie. I think with this one, Brooks is actually telling the truth. That is the truth, and that's accurate, as in it's a stressed relationship. It's not been a good relationship. So I think there he's being honest and saying that's the truth and that's accurate. What you have to say is, why does he feel the need to flag up he's telling the truth there? Potentially because there's not a lot of truth in what he's saying. That has been discussed, but we've always found ourselves together. We've got this found ourselves together phrase again. I think it's something he's settled on in his mind, psychologically gives him comfort. It doesn't go into the mechanics of how they've got themselves back together again. It's just found themselves together as if they've stumbled into it almost automatically. I don't believe that's what happened. Then he says, we loved each other very much. Past tense, they don't love each other anymore. We loved each other very much. Now, why is that? Why is he using past tense? Is it potentially because he knows Crystal isn't coming back, that the relationship is over, the love is over? We loved each other very much. Remember, at this point, Crystal is missing. He's supposed to be the desperately worried boyfriend wanting the safe return of his partner. But he says in past tense, we loved each other very much. And that right there is the bottom and end of it. Now, those are two very final words, the bottom and end of it. It's not a phrase in common use. Most common phrases are diametrically opposed. So, that's the long and the short of it. That's the thick and the thin of it. I searched the house from top to bottom. That's the beginning and end of it. But both of these things are kind of ends, the bottom and the end of it. So these are very final phrases. So why is he using final phrases around this relationship? Look, bottom, interesting. Does he know Crystal's at the bottom of something? And the end of it, does he know that's the end of it? You notice as well, he drifts off there. He talks about the spats that they've had, the fact they've always found themselves together, the fact she always comes back and is we loved each other very much. And that right there is the bottom and the end of it. And he drifts away a lot at the end of that. So look, describing the relationship there, more downplaying. Yeah, it was only a short period of time. He hints that he was the one at fault for all these arguments and breakups because Crystal needed to cool down. I think there's hints of controlling behaviour. I think that's why they found themselves getting back together again. I think it was his controlling behaviour that would bring them back together again. And interesting, he's very evasive on the dates and how recent this was that they talked about breaking up or Crystal talked about leaving him. Why be evasive about it? I think that's because that conversation happened recently. Now, I'm doing this episode because you guys asked for more of this Crystal Rogers case and to look at more of Brooks Houck. And man, you made yourselves heard loud and clear. There is more. Lots of people suggesting I should look at Brooks' brother, who was a policeman, I believe, and I believe he's given some interviews that bear looking at. So do, if you want more, let me know in the comments or get in touch on socials as well. Certainly the first one got loads of likes, loads of views, which is always an indication that people want more. So if you do want more, then do let me know that you want more content around this Crystal Rogers case. Let's go back into the police interview and more of how this relationship is described.
Well, the reason I ask is because there are some people that she's associated with that are telling us that she had made some tentative plans to leave, like looking at an apartment at that store above the apartment above the store. I'm just trying to figure out if that was something that was ancient history or if that was something that was more recent.
Well, that's news to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about that.
So when you all, let's say the last time you all had discussed splitting up, she didn't discuss any specifics with you about moving to an apartment or anything like that? Just that you all were having some issues and you resolved it?
Say all that again.
Yeah.
Break your question. Break them down.
The last time that you all had that type of a disagreement, okay? The last time that there was the possibility that you might split up, did she specifically talk to you about moving out somewhere?
No, not anything that she's never had an isolated point saying, hey, I'm moving here, moving there. I don't recall anything like that.
Okay.
No, sir.
That was my question.
All right.
Just if she had...
Well, sometimes I know that you all do this for a little bit. Sometimes I feel like when you ask me a question, you put so many things, and I'm thinking we need to dissect it a little bit so I can answer each part specifically rather than put so. And I'm not, please don't upset at me for saying that to you.
No.
Put so much stuff in one. I want to break it down in a simplified, direct question rather than put so much information into one question. Try to answer one and have a bunch of parts in one.
No, that's fine. If you need me to, that's fine. What you did right there is just fine.
All right, yeah, I just know what you did.
Ask it a different way or ask...
Because I want you helping me.
No, that's
all
fine.
right. That's all right.
That's fine. That's no problem at all.
Wow. Have you ever seen anything like that in a police interview at all? We'll deal with that as we get through the answer to the question. The detective says, the reason I ask is some people that she's associated with are telling us that she made some tentative plans to leave. I'm looking at an apartment, she's looking at an apartment at that store. I'm trying to figure out if that was something that was ancient history or if that is something more recent. And Brooks says, well, that's news to me. I don't know anything about that. That's news to me. I don't know anything about that. He starts with saying, well, which is that big flag for, I'm going to give you an explanation here. I'm not just going to say, I know all about that, or that was ancient history, and just deal with the question directly. He says, that's news to me. That stutter there suggests that he's, again, computing inside his head. How do I deal with this? The detective knows that she was threatening to leave, that she was looking for somewhere else to live. I want to give this impression that we had this really nice relationship. What you'll notice is he doesn't discount that it was going to happen. He doesn't say, no, that wasn't going to happen. No, Crystal wasn't doing that. What he says is that's news to me, news to him, not that I did not know that was not happening, just that's news to me. So he's open to the fact this could be true. And I don't know anything about that, which suggests that he's dealing directly with the concept of Crystal moving out. So he's aware that concept existed, I think, from his words there. So the detective says, so when y'all, let's say the last time y'all had discussed splitting up, she didn't discuss any specifics with you about moving to an apartment or anything like that, just that y'all were having some issues and you resolved it. And Brooks panics at this question. And he asks the question to be asked again, because I think he's still computing. He doesn't have the answer that he wants to give. He's in image management mode. He's impression management mode. He wants to make sure that he comes across as the innocent, caring boyfriend, but he doesn't have the words ready to go just yet. So instead of stumbling his way through, or even just giving the honest, instinctive answer, what he does is try to control the conversation. I think there's two things going on here. I think it's a diversion. So he's not ready to answer the question, so he's going to buy himself some thinking time by saying something else and asking for the question to be asked in another way. I think the other thing is it reveals a controlling personality. Say all that again. Break your question, break them down a little bit. Ordering language, it's not, please, could you just be a bit more specific? Or, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Could you say it again, please? None of that politeness or anything like that. Straight, direct, controlling language. Say all that again. Break your question, break them down a little bit. He's ordering the policeman what to do here. The policeman rephrases the question, although I don't think he makes it a lot simpler. Last time y'all had that type of a disagreement, okay, the last time there was the possibility that you might split up, did she specifically talk to you about moving somewhere? And all of a sudden, the question isn't that much more simple, but all of a sudden he has the words ready to answer the question. No, not anything. She never had an isolated point saying, hey, I'm moving here, I'm moving there. I don't recall anything like that. Now, this is a hell of an answer that he's managed to construct, because it manages to be both qualified and vague. It's like, no, not anything. No, not anything. No, she did not discuss that with me. It's just, no, not anything. She never had an isolated point. We've got that word never. It's an absolute. Not anything, another absolute. Now, he's already said that they did have some talking about moving out. She's never had an isolated point saying, hey, I'm moving here, I'm moving there. What does that mean? What, an isolated point? Does that mean she did say, I'm moving here, I'm moving there, in a non-isolated point way? I think what he's doing here is qualifying the answer way down, and that there wasn't that specific point I can put to. There was many of them, or it was a general theme. It just wasn't an isolated point. I'm moving here, I'm moving there. Again, why bring that up? It was just moving out. So really, he manages to be both qualified with the, she never had that isolated point. I think there might have been something outside the isolated point. And then that vagueness, no, not anything, moving here, moving there. I don't recall anything like that. Again, it's not, that didn't happen. No, she never spoke to me about moving out. No, she did not have that conversation. No, we just were always going to be together. Splitting up never came into our narrative, never came into what we spoke about. It's just, I don't recall anything like that, which is a sign that very, very likely that has happened. He's just going to claim, I don't recall it. I don't recall is great for a liar, because we can't disprove that. Whether something happened, we can prove that. But if someone says they don't recall it, we can't prove that they don't recall it. We have to take their word for it, or don't take their word for it in this case. The detective says, okay, that was my question. And look, I think there's some real sensitivity around this, because he didn't answer the question off the back. He asked for the question to be rephrased, I think to buy himself some thinking time. And he goes into this long, controlling speech now to take the conversation away from, was Crystal threatening to move out? Had she looked at somewhere else to live? And instead, we have this long, controlling speech. Sometimes, and I know that you do this, so sometimes I feel you ask me a question, you put so many things, and I'm thinking we need to dissect it a little bit so I can answer each part specifically. And he talks on and on and on. I'm not pleased or upset at me for saying that to you. Put so much stuff in one. I want to break it down. He talks more about how he would like the questions to be asked than he does about the status of his relationship and was Crystal thinking of moving out. Now, that is very suspicious. He's very, very happy here in his comfort zone of talking about the questions because there's no sensitivity there. He's not going to be asked more difficult questions. He's trying to divert the conversation off in another direction, at the same time controlling how the questions are asked. Look, if the police guy chunks these down a little bit, I've got less thinking to do. I can give simpler answers, constructed answers, but simpler answers to the questions. So I think this reveals controlling personality and also someone who's very sensitive about this. Then I do think, although there's some crosstalk there, he says to the police guy, I want you helping me. Right now, you're not the one that needs help. Crystal needs help. She is missing. But his priority is the police guy helping him. And the police guy goes, yeah, that's fine. That's no problem at all. I think he's taking this all in. So there, in that part, he is hiding the fact that she's threatened to move out. I think it's plain to see in his words that he's not dealing with it, and it's very sensitive to him that Crystal did threaten to move out and maybe had made some arrangements to move out. Maybe that is why Crystal is now missing, and it's causing him so much stress, this subject of her moving out, that he moves to complain about how the questions are asked and attempts to divert the conversation onto something he's much more comfortable talking about, which is the formation of questions and not what was the status of his relationship with Crystal. Now, coming up, we're going to catch Brooks out in a lie. It's something that I've never seen in a police interview before. It's a bit wild, and it's about a phone call that he received the night that Crystal went missing. You do not want to miss how he explains this and how he talks about it, because it's a little bit crazy. Now listen, do you ever feel like you're not hearing the full story? Well, that's happening to you all the time. I think Brooks is doing it here. I think it happened to us in day-to-day life as well. Well, this channel is the key to helping you see deeper and hearing the world with new ears. So if you want to do that, then do subscribe to the channel or follow it. We also have a treasure trove of archives, a whole load of police interviews to look at, where we look at what people say and what it really means, how to decode the words. It's a great life skill. I want to share this with as many people as possible. So if you share this with people who would be interested, if you hit the like button, it helps it get out to more people. The more you comment, then the more other people see this as well. So if you want to support the channel, that's the easiest way of doing it. Subscribe, like, comment. I appreciate every single interaction because it helps get this message out to the wider world, which is what I want to do, because I think hearing the world with those new ears is a really, really powerful skill to have. Shall we go back into the police interview then? And let's listen to how Brooks talks about a phone call that he is asked about that he got on driving back from between his mum's house and his house with Crystal and Eli in the car. This is in his words.
On the phone records, there appears to be a phone call around midnight.
All right.
On Friday night, Saturday morning.
All right.
I'm talking about on your way home, basically.
All right.
Do you know who that person was that called you around midnight? Do you remember taking a phone call?
Can you just call the number back? I don't.
I mean, I could. I could.
What's
I
your phone
could look at
number?
your phone.
Yeah, look at my phone, but I don't remember
You
that.
don't remember getting a phone call on the way home?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be unusual for you to get a phone call at midnight? I mean, it is for me, and I work for the sheriff's office. I get calls quite regularly.
Some of the people that do the tile for me, I wouldn't put it past them to call me at any time. They lay brick through the day, and then their tile my house is at night. The Thomases I wrote on there, Derek and his brother Tyler Thomas, they'll call me at any time. And I've got even if it's just one day, I don't pay them people by the job. They got to get paid by the hour, and then when they get done with it, I pay them.
Right.
That's just what we've agreed on. But yeah, those folks there call me any hour.
It was a pretty short phone conversation is the only reason I asked.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of unusual to get a 13-second phone conversation at midnight. You know, it is for me. It may not be for you. But,
all right. Well, just check it out. Yeah, check it out in detail. That's right.
Let me ask you a question. Is it common for you to get a phone call after midnight? Bear your answer in mind there. So this is about this mysterious phone call. Pay attention to what he says here because it becomes extremely relevant as we go through the discussions in this phone call. The detective says, on the phone records, there appears to be a phone call around midnight. And Brooks says, all right. On Friday night, Saturday morning. All right. On your way home, basically, says the detective. All right, says Brooks. All right is what he says. He's not confirming. He's not denying. He's not seeking to understand anymore. He's going, all right. Now, if you don't remember that phone call, which is what he tries to say, Was there? I don't recall. Let me think about that for a minute. But no, he's given it a mild confirmation with, all right, all right, all right. I'm going to say, all right, you move on. You move on because I want to know everything that you know about this phone call before I answer the question. Do you know who that person was that called you around midnight? Do you remember talking to them and getting a phone call? He doesn't answer those questions. He doesn't say that he knows or doesn't know the person that called him around midnight. He doesn't say that he remembers or doesn't remember talking to a person and getting a phone call. Instead, he says, can you just call the number back? I don't. I could, says the detective. So can you just call the number back? I don't. He's not committed to what he's saying here. Can you just call the number back? But he doesn't directly answer the question. Therefore, I think he does remember the call. He does know who it's from. He just doesn't want to talk about it with the detective. So he's doing this. Can you just call the number back? I don't. The detective says, I could. Then Brooks says, yeah, look at my phone, but I don't remember that. Once more, we have that there, which means, or suggests to me rather, that he has the concept of this phone call. But again, he's going to say, I don't remember it. No, it didn't happen. No, I don't know, drove straight home and no one called. It's, I don't remember that. It's an easy get out. I don't remember that. You can't be caught in a lie then if you don't remember it. If it's proved that this phone call happened, he can be, oh yeah, I do remember that actually now you mention it, and it doesn't look like a lie. Is that what's going on here? Yeah, look at my phone, but I don't remember that. Also, again, that controlling language. Yeah, look at my phone. It's all right. You look at my phone. It's not, yeah, let's look at my phone and get this sorted out because it could be important. My girlfriend is missing. The police guy notices that he hasn't answered this question. Do you remember getting a phone call on the way home? Would it be unusual for you to get a phone call at midnight? And at that point, he looks at Brooks and Brooks doesn't answer. I asked you the question. Would it be unusual for you to get a phone call at midnight? I would bet you said yes or no, really quickly, yes or no. And yet he does not answer the question. Yeah, it's really usual. People call me all the time. No one calls me after midnight. I mean, what sort of person would call you after midnight? That's just plain rude. He doesn't have an answer to that. He is hedging his bets and saying very little, because saying very little is the easiest way to keep yourself out of trouble, to keep yourself from saying something that ends up coming to bite you on the ass. The detective realises there's no answer here. Says, I mean, it is for me, and I work for the sheriff's office. I get calls quite regularly. And Brooks goes into something that is longer than when he's talking about whether he remembers the call or not. So I think he's comfortable talking here. And again, he's talking in general. Some of the people that do the tile for me, I wouldn't put it past them to call me at any time. You'll notice it's not they do call me at any time. They call me at all hours. It's just I wouldn't put it past them to call me at any time. They lay brick through the day and they're tiling my houses at night. It's a very general answer about people who call them regularly, but it doesn't mention that they call after midnight at all. And it's a diversion. He's gone into what he's really comfortable talking about, which is his business and the people that work for him. Some of the people that do tile for me, I wouldn't put it past them to call me at any time. The Thomases, I wrote on there, Derek and his brother Tyler Thomas, they'll call me at any time. Not after midnight, just at any time. I've got to, even if it's just one day, I don't pay them people by the job. They got to get paid by the hour. And then when they get done with it, I pay them. What's this got to do with this call at midnight? I do not know. It's just something he's comfortable talking about, his business. This is probably fairly truthful. They do call at any time, but that really is maybe sociable hours and not after midnight. When they get done with it, I pay them. I mean, this is just him talking about something that's comfortable for him, that causes him no stress. Therefore, we can deduce the phone call that he's diverting from talking about, that causes him stress for some reason. That's just what we agreed on. Yeah, these folk call me at any hour. So it's just all general and diversion. The detective doesn't let up. He doesn't get taken down this off-ramp that Brooks will go down about, well, was it one of these guys that called you then? Was it about business? Was it about paying the tiler? Doesn't go down that. He just brings it right back to the subject in hand. It was a pretty short phone conversation is the only reason I asked. Brooks says, which is, again, I'm not going to say very much about this. I'm going to be so tight-lipped I can't actually form words. I'm just going to go, which is actually confirmation. Kind of unusual to get a 13-second phone call at midnight. It is for me. It may not be for you. And Brooks says, all right, which again is just buttoned down. This is causing him real stress, and he's not giving the detective anything to work with. Now, if we wanted to audit his books, we could find out about the Taylors and the Tylers all getting paid and how they get paid, because he's spoken a lot about them. We've got a lot to work with if we wanted to know about how his business is set up. But we don't, because your girlfriend's missing, and we don't have anything to work with on this call whatsoever because you've been so buttoned down. All right, is what he says. And then he says, check it out. So in this part here, the phone call is a sensitive subject. This phone call that is on his call logs he received just after midnight on the night that he claims was the last time that he saw Crystal. And if it's all as he's claimed, then there's no reason for it to be sensitive. So if it was a phone call from someone about payment or about a job that was working for him, these people that could have paid him at NAR, there'd be no sensitivity about that. It'd just be, yeah, the guy called, he's been doing some tiling, wanted to get his money. But he doesn't say that. He only talks in the general. So that's the phone call as it is set up there. He's asked about it. He explains that he doesn't remember it, but it could be anyone. Now, the detective is going to go and get the phone, going to find out who called him after midnight. This is something else.
Okay, if we get that number in?
Yeah, go right ahead. Do what you gotta do.
Looks like you got a couple of messages. I don't know how to do that. I've got an Apple phone, so just
You just want to put the number in, right?
or check contacts or however you do it to see who it is. Yeah. Check this.
492-1390. Just call it. Oh, Steve Lawson.
Okay. Who is Steve Lawson?
He's somebody that works for me. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't hear you real good. I'm gonna ask you to speak up a little bit, okay?
Okay, sir.
Hey, I was wanting to know. Hey, I've got some things going on next week. I'm gonna need your help with me. Are you already booked up, or can you help me?
I haven't moved up yet. I'm still looking for a place. That's why I needed them numbers from you.
All right. Well, I can write them all down and get them there for you. But I was actually talking about doing some more work with your little skid steer and so forth. Mine's still broke down.
Well, I said, get with me tomorrow. I'm coming. I know you have a hard time hearing me because it's where I'm located at.
All right.
So just get in touch with me tomorrow and we'll see what we can do. But my question, I just want to tell you, I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers.
I said it is a very difficult and trying time, but I appreciate you saying that. But hey, I need your help while I got you on the phone here.
I need your help while I've got you on the phone here. What happens next is boom, mind-blowing. If that part wasn't just crazy enough. And, I think if there were acting awards being handed out for this, potentially some are due from that scene. Oh, so the detective says, can we put the number in? Brooks has his controlling language again. Yeah, go right ahead. Do what you got to do. Now, this is all about getting to the bottom of where your missing girlfriend is. So do what you got to do. Sounds like he's a little bit scared of what is going on here. Not that he thinks is going to be helpful. So he gets through and for some reason, which could be suspicious, instead of just putting the number in and seeing whose name it matches to in his phone, then what he does is call the number. And as he's doing it, he says, just call it. And then he goes, oh, Steve Lawson. And that, it sounds like a hammy bit of acting. Now, that's not what I look at here. I don't look at people's acting skills, but that, Steve Lawson is more the words of surprise. Why not just say, it's Steve Lawson? It was Steve Lawson that called me. It's, Steve Lawson. I think that is feigned surprise. Oh, Steve Lawson. You'll see again that being used later. He's asked, okay, Steve Lawson. I think he says he's someone that works for me. Steve picks up the phone because he's decided to call Steve for some reason. He wasn't asked to call Steve, but he calls Steve and puts him on loudspeaker as well. So plainly, he wants everyone to hear this. Steve says, go ahead. Hey, Steve. Hey, I can't hear you real good. I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit, okay? Is that because he can't hear him real good? I mean, all he said is go ahead and yeah. Is it the fact that he wants this to be heard by everyone? Steve says, okay, sir. Brooks says, hey, I was wanting to know, hey, I've got some things going on next week and I'm going to need your help with them. Are you already booked up or can you help me? What's the priority here? He's talking to the police. There's two things going on with him when he's talking to the police. Number one is clearing his name. If he is innocent, stop looking at me and start looking for Crystal would be his priority. But his priority should be Crystal's safety, Crystal's security. And instead, in the middle of a police interview, he starts trying to book Steve for some work next week. His priority is not his missing girlfriend, Crystal. It's the work that he's gone on next week. What is his priority? It's work. Why is that? Steve says, I haven't booked up yet. I'm still looking for a place, and that's why I need to get the numbers from you. Again, this will become interesting. Did Steve mishear? Did Steve mishear and think that he was asking, have you got these numbers or have you got a place? Or is he just working to a script and has to mention these numbers? You'll find out why that becomes a little bit more relevant as we go through. I'm still looking for a place. That's why I need to get the numbers from you. And you'll notice that we were flowing quite well from Brooks there. I was wanting to know, I've got some things going on next week I'm going to need your help with. As soon as these numbers are mentioned, potentially out of place in a rehearsed conversation, the stuttering starts from Brooks. All right, well, I can write them all down and get them there for you. But I was actually talking about doing some more work with your little skid steer and so forth. Mine still broke down, so he gets very stuttery there as soon as these numbers have been mentioned by Steve. Steve says, well, stand up. It's got to be tomorrow. Having a hard time of hearing because of where I'm located at. I think that's what he says. So just get in touch with me tomorrow. I'm going to see what I could do. And then Steve says, I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers. What's Steve's priority here? He knows that Crystal is missing, obviously, from the I just want to tell you I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers. Why did Steve not say at the beginning of the call, how's everything? Any news? Because he knows what's going on. He also knows what's going on and didn't go, forget work. How are you? Any news on Crystal? How are you bearing up? None of that conversation at all. It's just we do the business and then, oh, by the way, I just wanted to tell you, you'll notice that word just is there. I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers. So what's Steve's priority here? Both of them seem to have priorities on this phone call that are not the missing woman, Crystal Rogers. Brooks's response is, I said it is a very difficult and trying time, but I appreciate you saying that. I believe he is having a very difficult and trying time. He's in a police interview and he's very stressed. We can see that. So finally, I've got something where I'm like, yeah, I think you're telling the truth there, Brooks. You are having a very difficult and trying time. And then he says, but hey, I need your help while I've got you on the phone here. Now, we have, just in this section, I'm wondering other code words or rehearsed things going on there. I'm going to call you and we're going to talk about this and we're going to do it in front of other people. I'm going to ask you to speak up. I'm going to put you on speakerphone and I want you to talk about numbers, but other code words there around talking up or something like that, because they are slightly out of context. But this is not the priority set of a man trying to find his missing girlfriend. Talking about business next week is not the priority set of someone who is worried about his missing girlfriend. Now, what's gone on is that Brooks has said, Steve, I need your help. And now he's going to ask for that help. And it's just something. Listen to this.
Do you remember the other night you called me really, really late? And I forgot what you asked me. Can you... I guess it wasn't on the phone. I might have been tired. I know it was pretty late at night. Can you remember what you asked me or what you were after? I can't remember.
Yes, sir, I can. I called to ask you for them numbers for a house.
Oh, for a rental house.
Yes, sir,
And
did.
what I forgot. What did I tell you?
You told me that you would call, what's her name, Katie or whatever, she handles all that.
Crystal.
Crystal, okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
And she said she handles all that, and that you would get back with me on it.
All right. Thank you so much now.
Hey, if there's anything I can do, you give me a call.
Thank you. You have a good night now.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. The help he says that he needs. Do you remember the other night you called me really, really late? And I forgot what you asked me. Right there, I'm just going, what is going on here? Because remember, he, in the first time he was asked about this call, gave the impression he didn't remember it. In fact, he did say, I don't remember that. The other night, you called me, right? So he's saying the call was real at this point. The other night, you called me. Now, if he didn't remember it, do you remember calling me the other night after midnight? But no, it's the other night you called me. So he's now saying he remembers this phone call. Implicitly in his words, he's now saying he remembers and acknowledges that this phone call happened, despite not remembering it earlier. Now he remembers it. And then he says, I forgot what you asked me. Note, it's not, I forgot why you called. It's, I forgot what you asked me. Therefore, two things. He's acknowledging the call again because he remembers that within the call, he was asked a question. And number two, he knows that it wasn't, I forgot why you called. It's, I forgot what you asked me. So the call, he remembers now. Or they've set up a little story about what this call was all about. And it's about Steve calling Brooks to ask a question. You called me, acknowledging the call happened, despite saying he didn't remember it before. So he's contradicting himself. In other words, he's lying. And I forgot what you asked me. So he does have some either remembrance of the actual call, or he suddenly has the story around the call constructed and ready to roll. Can you, I guess it wasn't long on the phone. I might have been tired. I know it was pretty late at night. Can you remember what you asked me or what you were after? I can't remember. So can you remember what you asked me? Again, he's saying here that he knows what was in the call or what you were after. Again, sometimes people call with the answer to a question. So he's not saying, can you remember why you called? Which would be the whole point. Someone decides to call you. They have a reason for doing it. That's how we would normally phrase that question. Can you remember why you called? Yeah, I was calling to ask you a question. I was calling to give you some information. But no, he knows in his head he was asked a question, or he knows the story is Steve called to ask me a question. Steve says, yes, sir. I called to ask you for them numbers for a house. And we have the O again from Brooks. Oh, as in, oh, yeah, I do remember now. Oh, this surprised O that he has brought into his conversation. Oh, for a rental house. And I think there we've got, Steve has said, I called you to ask for them numbers for a house, which is a made up story. And Brooks realizes that this is not giving the detective enough information. So, oh, for a rental house, to just flesh the story out, make the story appear legit and fleshed out and full of detail. Yes, sir, I did. Now, the numbers earlier become clearer. Remember when Brooks called Steve, it's like, can I book you for a job? And he's like, I haven't got a place, I need phone numbers. Suddenly that part of the conversation becomes clear. Is this a script that they're working to, or are the code words going on here? And what did I forgot. What did I tell you? Now, the mystery, as the detective said, was who called and what did you talk about, right? So that would be it, all blanked off. I called to looking for those numbers. Yeah, I remember it now. Thank you very much. However, Brooks has something worked out. He wants to go a little bit extra because there is a story to tell here. And what did I forgot. What did I tell you? Irrelevant. This is not going to help find Crystal whatsoever, but it's going to enable Brooks to get this story out that he wants to get across, I believe. Steve says, you told me you would call, what's her name? Katie or whatever. She handles all that. Crystal, says Brooks. So you told me you would call Crystal, or she handles all that. Steve says, Crystal, okay, I apologize. Yeah, she said she handles all that, and I do think it is she said she handles all that, even though it should be you said she handles all that. We all misspeak, but obviously Crystal is high up in his priority for it to be a misspeak. She says she handles all that, and you would get back to me on it. All right, says Brooks. Thank you so much now. If there's anything I can do, just give me a call, says Steve. Thank you. You have a good night now, says Brooks. Yes, sir. God bless you. And that is that call done with a thank you from Brooks. So here, he lied earlier when he said he didn't remember the call. He remembered a lot of detail of that call, or all of a sudden the call is not in dispute. And he, in his words, now knows about the call, now knows about the content of the call, enough to know there was a question asked. But this call sounds prearranged. It sounds like it's following a script. And Steve's job is to say that the only reason that you and I have contact is to ask for rental house numbers. So that call all sounds prearranged. Oh, and there's something else in that. I don't know if you noticed it, but the detective noticed it. Have a listen.
Okay. So that begs a question in my mind.
All right.
If she's in the truck next to you when he called, why would you need to call her about getting numbers for rental property?
Because being that late at night, we're headed to the house. I just wouldn't. She normally is not going to deal with stuff that late. And I probably didn't even look at the phone to see who it was calling me. I'm sure I just answered it.
But he said you told him that you'd need to call her.
All right.
Why would you need to call her? I mean, that's an odd phrase for someone who's sitting next to you in the truck. Do you understand? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. But that's if that right there is what I told him, that right there is what I told him. We wasn't on the phone that long, but normally I would just, she handles all that, and that's what I would do. She's not going to want to mess with that kind of stuff that late. I'm sure I probably tried to answer the phone really quickly, so that it wouldn't, a lot of times after I get moving, Eli goes to sleep, sometimes he goes to sleep in the truck, sometimes he doesn't. So if you want to call him, you got his number and everything, if you want to call him, you can call him.
The detective spotted it. Okay, that begs a question in my mind, all right? If she's in the truck next to you, that's Crystal. If she's in the truck next to you when he called, that's Steve. Why would you need to call her about getting numbers for a rental house? And Brooks falls apart here. He doesn't answer the question. Because being that late at night, we're headed to the house, I just wouldn't, she normally is not going to deal with stuff that late. We have the word just there. I just wouldn't focus it all down. Use that word just. I only want you to look at this part. I don't want you to think about anything bigger. I just want you to focus on that thing that it is I'm talking about. I just wouldn't. And then he jumps concept. I just wouldn't. And he doesn't tell us what he wouldn't. He says, she normally is not going to deal with stuff like that. Brooks's favourite thing is not to talk about specifics, it's to talk about generals. So he talks about normal here. She normally is not going to deal with stuff that late. Now, normally means that she might be dealing with stuff that late. Again, it doesn't hang together in terms of what is there. I didn't want to worry her there. I mean, there is no legit answer there, but his words give him away. I mean, I probably didn't even look at the phone to see who was calling me. Again, we don't have any reality here. It's just I probably didn't even look at the phone to see who was calling me. I'm sure I just answered it, Suddenly he's sure of something. All of a sudden he's very sure that I just answered it. I'm sure I just answered it. I don't think he is sure he just answered it. I think he's really floundering here, which is why he's talking about normally. That's why he's jumping concepts. I just wouldn't, she normally is not going to deal with stuff that late. I don't even look at the phone. I'm sure I just answered it. It's just waffle because he's not got something ready to say. He's not got a prepared statement here that he can just get out in his mind. He's trying to construct it in his head at the same time as saying something so it looks like he's answering the question, but it is just waffle. The detective is not letting him away with that. I like this detective a lot. The detective says, but he said you told him that you'd need to call her. And here we go again with Brooks clamping down and just going, all right, because he realizes his words are starting to get him in trouble. So he just clamps down and goes, all right, it's confirmation. All right. Why would you need to call her? I mean, that's an odd phrase for someone who's sitting next to you in the truck. Do you understand what I'm saying? And Brooks says, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. And I believe that for once again, we've got the truth coming out. He can easily agree with this because he's going, oh man, we're in so much trouble. How am I going to get out of this one? What are the words? What's the believable story I can tell? While all this is going on in his brain, he's going, yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. This doesn't add up. If that right there is what I told him, wasn't he on the phone? We wasn't on the phone that long, so we just have stutter, we have start, stop, changing thoughts, moving tracks, all that sort of stuff, because his brain is working overtime to try and form the words. Why is that? Because whatever honestly happened, the easiest thing to say, just let the truth come out, is not happening with Brooks here. I normally would just, she handles all that, and that's what I would do. She's not going to want to mess with that kind of stuff that late. I'm sure, we've got that surety again, I'd probably try to answer the phone really quickly, so that it wouldn't. Now, we've got so much stuff going on here, but he's just not answering the question at all. I guess there is a rational, reasonable way of wording things if this were true, which is, I didn't even want him to know I was there with her. I didn't want her bothered at that time of night. It was late and we weren't going to do work stuff. So I said I'd call to put some delay in there. There's a sort of rational way of wording it, but because that's not the truth, he's just floundering around. She's not going to mess with stuff that late. I'm sure I'd probably answer the phone really quickly, all irrelevant, so that it wouldn't then he remembers something, and I think he strikes what I think is a story that he thinks is worth telling, which is that Eli was sleeping in the back of the car. Therefore, what I can do is say I didn't want to wake Eli. Now, if you didn't want to wake Eli, he just wouldn't answer the call. But he talks about so that it wouldn't, and I think he's going to say so that it wouldn't wake Eli, but he has to reset the fact that Eli's there. So was Eli in the car at the time? A lot of times after I get moving, Eli goes to sleep, Again, it's not that straightforward thing from Brooks of Eli was sleeping in the back of the car, didn't want to disturb him with any more chat, so I just got off the call really quickly. A lot of times after I get moving, Eli goes to sleep, Sometimes he goes to sleep in the truck, sometimes he doesn't. What the impression there is he didn't want to wake Eli, but you'll notice he doesn't say that. He does not say Eli was asleep and I didn't want to wake him. He doesn't finish the thought. It's also irrelevant as to what is going on. So if you want to call him, you got his number and everything. If you want to call him, you can call him. So controlling behavior again, saying, yeah, you call him. Really, I can't answer this question. And instead it's trying to divert again. Yeah, go and call him. So in that whole section there, I don't think Crystal was in the truck. I think it has been said there by them. Crystal wasn't in the truck. I don't think Eli was in the truck again. He forgets that Eli is in the truck in his story. And the call that happened after midnight when Crystal went missing, in Brooks' words, was not about the numbers for rental houses. An extremely deceptive passage of that police interview. So what have I got after that? After looking at part 2 there, man, I mean, this guy is downplaying how bad the relationship was, and he's lying his way through the interview. It just doesn't hang together. And when things get really sensitive, questions about that phone call and questions about the state of the relationship and whether Crystal had threatened to move out, he is extremely sensitive to them and tries to divert and talk about another subject. Brooks currently on trial in connection with all of this, and I think that's the right place for him to be. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments on this platform if you can, or get in touch on the socials. Neveratruerword.com is the website. There you'll find a load more videos and podcasts if you want to look at some police interrogations to see how people try and smuggle their truth past the police. Neveratruerword.com. Also there you can sign up for the monthly newsletter to get yourself some insight into how to decode the truth, manipulation, deception and motivation from understanding how people use words. Neveratruerword.com is the website, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.